Hi, good afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about creating a Mexican-inspired Catrina figurine. My advanced students are looking at the human skeleton, and this is a traditional Catrina from Mexico. The original Catrina was done by Jose Guadalupe Posada, and it was a drawing. It was actually a tin lithograph, and the idea was that in 1910, there were a few landowners who owned most of the land in Mexico, and they walked around and they had very fancy clothes, but Posada's point was that when we die, we all end up the same. So your worldly possessions will not matter in the afterlife. And so the original piece caught on and has become quite a bit of folklore in Mexico and has been recreated many, many times. My students are going to create their own creations that could be a 1910 inspired Catrina or something else. For my sample, I'm going to do a Catrina inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, our beloved Supreme Court Justice who passed away last year. And so what I've done is I got some pictures of her looking at the skull, looking at the skeletal system, and then planning out a sketch, trying to figure out how tall I want to make her. This past week, the students have been studying the human skull and trying to make their own human skulls. We're making skulls around 2 inches by 2 inches by 1.25 inches in width. And we're really looking at the bone structure and trying to get the skull as accurate as we can. For this sculpture, it is often recommended to have an armature. A wood base can support your clay as you're building up your piece. For my piece, I'm going to create her robe using the armature, and then I'm going to add the feet and the head afterwards. So I've created kind of a newspaper form to go over my post, and what I'm looking at is about an 11-inch tall piece, and so I rolled out a clay slab that's 11 inches tall, and it's about twice as wide. The slab is about a 1/2 inch thick. So when you use your clay and you think about how you want to design this, the first day is really important, okay? So one of the things that I recommend is to kind of figure out your proportions ahead of time. So I figured out that the head and neck is about 3 inches, the robe is going to be about 11 inches, and then the lower legs and feet are about 2 inches. So right now I'm at about 12 inches. So I'm a little bit higher than I need, but that's okay. I'm going to use a fettling knife. The clay is nice and soft. First day with the clay, you really think about the stages of the clay. The wet clay is really, really moldable, really malleable, we call it. And so you can get a lot of the forming done on the first day. Many of the details I won't be able to do on the first day, but I can start to get my structure built up. So I want to think about the robe, and if I think about the robe, I want to think about the shoulders. So the shoulders are really, really important. I'm going to use a paddle to control the form and start to get in the shoulders. I'm going to start from the top and move my way down the body. On the back, I'm also going to do a little paddling. This is a forming paddle. You can use a wood stick as well, is very helpful. Use a metal rib. Scrape and integrate the clay. Okay. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, very small, petite woman, very powerful woman, but very small and petite. But the figurine is going to have this big robe, and if you look at her, she looks very small in her big robe. So I want to exaggerate the robe. It's going to be part of what I'm going to do. One of the things I want to start off with is figuring out the creases. So in the center, there is a pretty pronounced crease right through the center. So I want to get that right away first day because it's going to be easier to get a start on that before too long. Okay, it's kind of the way the fabric folds right there. And then that's going to integrate in with those shoulders. I'm also going to try to do that lace collar. She was very often wore a lace collar or a scarf, so I will probably do the lace collar. I might do the scarf, but see what looks best as I get to that point. I'm not doing the arms today. Just going to start with the form of the robe. Okay. Now, in the crease in the gown, I have some pretty pronounced areas that I want to go ahead and figure out. The first day is when to do this, before the clay gets too stiff. And so you may use a piece of wood. I often use a ruler, believe it or not. Ruler works really well. Any kind of straight edge where you can get in to get those edges or forms that you want. The nice thing about the armature is I can lift it up. I can actually take this off of here. I still have the paper. And so if I need to get up inside the dress the first day, or the robe rather, I can do that. I can get inside, and I'm going to put the ruler inside so I can build that crease a little bit. And I'm actually going to use the paddle and the ruler together to get some of those creases started. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe creases that I want to start today. And I might do some overlap too, so I'll play around with that too. The wood rib is really nice because it's very sturdy. You get a really nice build on that too. Okay, and then the arms will come in over top, but you kind of get the idea of what's starting to happen. Looks like I'm going to need to trim a little bit back here. All right, and I want to keep the robe straight up and down. So I'm thinking about that right up on that first day. If you can get the predominant, when the clay is really wet, that's really when you try to get most of your predominant forms. And then second day, third day, fourth day, as it starts to dry, you can get a little bit more of the carving. But any kind of undulation movement, those of you who want to do a dress, you can do that. Now, if you're doing a figure with pants, you probably want to either have with 2 posts, or you can use a single post with 1 leg. Different ways to do it. Okay. All right, so that's about all I'm going to do for right now, but you see the direction I'm going. Eventually, I'm going to go ahead and add the head, the skull, the arms, and then the legs. So she's going to be quite a bit taller. Right now, we're looking at about 14 inches with me holding my finger there as a neck. And then when I add the legs, another 2 inches. So she's going to end up being about 16 inches before it goes in the kiln. And then it will shrink 10-15%.